The untold truth about King Solomon. Solomon was a beloved king, but with an unpleasant history. The Bible is a complete and impartial book that doesn't try to protect us from the imperfections of our heroes of faith. It's hard to think of the kings remembered fondly in the Bible without including Solomon. He will always be remembered as a king who loved God so much that he offered 1,000 burnt offerings, asked for wisdom, and shone with such uncommon understanding that he brought peace and put an end to wars, as recounted in 1 Kings, chapter 3, verses 3 to 14. Solomon showed his love for the Lord by following the instructions given to him by his father David. He also offered sacrifices and burned incense on the high places. The king went to Gibeon to offer sacrifices, as this was the most important high place. There, Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar of Gibeon. That night, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon replied, "You have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you, just and upright in heart. You have continued this great kindness by giving him a son to sit on his throne even today. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in the place of my father David, but I am only a small child and I don't know how to act. Behold, I am in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a people so numerous that they cannot be counted or numbered. So give your servant an understanding heart to rule." The Lord was pleased with Solomon's request and told him, "Since you asked for this and not riches, long life or the death of your enemies, but discernment to administer justice, I will what you asked for. I will give you a wise and so that there has never been anyone like you, nor will there be in the future. I will give you what you did not ask for, wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime among kings, and if you walk in obedience to me, observing my decrees and commandments as your father David did, then I will give you a long life." Solomon became famous for his popularity due to his depth of knowledge and solutions. He wrote some of the best-known books in the Bible, such as Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, and Proverbs, which are full of wisdom. In these books he wrote many wise words, quotes, songs, and proverbs that are so profound that we still explore them today. Solomon was a wise man who was hard to ignore and easy to love. For this reason, many people came from far and near to seek his wisdom, wealth, or advice, as described in 1 Kings chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. When the Queen of Sheba heard about his fame, she came to Jerusalem to verify the stories circulating about his wisdom. Solomon's fame and his relationship with the Lord reached the ears of the Queen of Sheba, who came to test him with difficult questions. She arrived in Jerusalem with a large caravan of camels laden with spices, large quantities of gold and precious stones. When she met Solomon, she discussed everything she had in mind. Solomon answered all her questions and nothing was too difficult for the king to explain. When the Queen of Sheba saw all Solomon's wisdom, the grandeur of the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the servants who attended him in their robes, the cupbearers, and the burnt offerings he offered in the temple of the Lord, she was impressed. She said to the king, "The news I've heard in my own country about your achievements and your wisdom is true, but I wouldn't believe the Lord until I came and saw it with my own eyes. In fact, they haven't even half told me about your wisdom and wealth. How happy your people and your officials must be who stand before you, always listening to your wisdom. Praise be to the Lord, your God, who has been pleased with you and placed you on the throne of Israel. It is because of the Lord's eternal love for Israel that he has made you king, to uphold justice and righteousness." And she presented the king with 120 talents of gold, large quantities of spices and precious stones. Never before had so many spices been brought as those given to Solomon by the Queen of Sheba. The ships from Iran brought gold from Ophir, and from there they brought abundant shipments of almug wood and precious stones. The king used the almug wood to make supports for the temple of the Lord in the royal palace, as well as to make harps and lutes for the musicians. Since then, there has never been so much imported almug wood. King Solomon fulfilled all the Queen of Sheba's wishes and requests, in addition to what he had already given generously of his royalty. So she left, returning with her entourage to her own country. The weight of the gold that Solomon received each year was 666 talents, not counting the income from merchants, traders, and all the Arab kings and governors of the territories. King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold, with 600 shekels of gold in each shield. In addition, he made 300 small shields of hammered gold, with 3 kilos of gold in each shield. The king placed them in the palace of the forest of Lebanon. The king also made a large throne all covered in ivory and covered in fine gold. Solomon loved many foreign women in addition to Pharaoh's daughter, Moabites, Ammonites, Sidonians, and Hittites. These were women from nations about whom the Lord had said to the Israelites, "You must not unite with them in marriage, for they will surely lead you to worship their gods." Yet Solomon clung to them in love, taking 700 royal wives and 300 concubines. His wives turned his heart away to follow other gods, and his heart was no longer entirely devoted to the Lord, his God, like the heart of David, his father. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. Thus Solomon did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord and was not totally faithful to the Lord, as David, his father, had been. On a hill to the east of Jerusalem, Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abominable deity of Moab, and for Molech, the abominable god of the Ammonites. He also did the same for the Ammonites, accompanying their foreign wives who burned incense and offered sacrifices to their gods. The Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Although the Lord had forbidden Solomon to follow other gods, he did not obey the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Since this is your attitude and you have not kept my covenant and my commandments that I have commanded you, I will certainly snatch the kingdom out of your hands and give it to one of your servants. I will take a tribe from his son, but I will not take the whole kingdom from him, for I will give him a tribe in consideration of David my servant, and in consideration of Jerusalem, the city I have chosen." Eventually, Jeroboam's lust, weakness, and lack of discipline in his relationships with women caused God to turn away from him, until he lost almost everything he owned. First Book of Kings, chapter 11, verses 28 to 40. At that time Jeroboam was a man of prominence, and Solomon saw him. And Solomon, seeing how well the young man was doing his work, put him in charge of the entire workforce of the tribes of Joseph, at which time Jeroboam was leaving Jerusalem, and the prophet Aiah of Silo met him on the way wearing a new cloak. The two of them were alone in the field, and the prophet tore the new cloak he was wearing into 12 pieces and said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 pieces for yourself, for thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I am going to snatch the kingdom out of the hands of Solomon, out of Solomon's hands, and give you 10 tribes. But for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, I will leave one tribe for you, Israel. I will leave one tribe for Solomon's son, so that he may have a lamp before me every day in Jerusalem, the city I have chosen for my name. Molech, the god of the Ammonites, and has not walked in obedience to me, nor done what is right in my eyes, nor kept my decrees and laws, as David the father of Solomon did. Yet I will not take the whole kingdom out of Solomon's hand. I have made him ruler all the days of his life, because of David my servant, whom I chose, and who obeyed my commandments and decrees. Commandments and decrees, I will take the kingdom out of your son's hand, and give you 10 tribes. To one of Solomon's sons, I will give a tribe, so that my servant David will always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city I have chosen to put my name on. However, for you I will take it, and you will rule over all that your heart desires. You will be king over Israel. If you do everything I command you and walk in obedience to me, doing what is right in my eyes, obeying my decrees and commandments, just as David my servant did, I will be with you and build a dynasty as lasting as the one I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. I will humiliate the descendants of David because of this, but not forever." Solomon tried to kill Jeroboam, but he fled to Egypt, to the king of Shishak, where he remained until Solomon's death. Solomon, who once was the beloved leader of the 12 tribes of Israel, had only one tribe left as his legacy. His life teaches us that even the most celebrated hero has weaknesses that need to be faced if he wants to finish strong.